What is there an opinion that Thomas holds that you disagree with? Yeah.
Yes, I mean, certainly. I mean, when you read Thomas Aquinas, you're reading a great theological master, and a saint. So that's the first thing to start with. Now in any serious thinker, you can find like things where he started from the wrong premises, or he had mistaken facts that he was working with. He was working with, for example, the best scientific understanding that you could have in the 13th century. And, it just means that sometimes that wasn't adequate to things that we know now in terms of the science. For example, the science of, embryology and embryo development. We've learned a lot about how that works, and St. Thomas was working with the best science that he had in his time. So if he's drawing conclusions based on like mistaken medieval premises, I don't have a problem looking at that and saying, well, if St. Thomas if he had access to the information that we have access to, he surely wouldn't be describing things this way. He would be doing it a different way. But I think St. Thomas has a special genius, and his genius was to understand the whole. And, this is what he says is the role of the wise person. The wise person, what makes a wise person wise? It's grasping the whole and then how everything fits into the whole. So Aquinas had an amazing capacity. I think this is his true genius. Not so much to be super original in all the things that he says. In fact, a lot of the things that he says are not as original as you might think. He's getting them from other places. But he understood like the whole of Christian theology and like with all of philosophy. And he could then encounter some new ideas and see how they can be like adapted and fit into the whole in a way that made him a master of synthesis. And that's why his great work, which is the Summa Theologiae, is a work of summary and synthesis. That's what makes it so great. So like if you go through the whole Summa, which is a big job, but if you go through the whole Summa, you do cover the whole of theology. And, he was able to do that in the 13th century in a way that today is very, very difficult to do. Because all of our academic disciplines have become so segmented and specialized. Yeah. But he was able to do everything. So that he gets a few things wrong is not a big deal because the big picture is profoundly right.
Yeah, it would be weirder if you expected a saint to get everything right. A saint is a declaration by the church that an individual is in heaven, not that they were inerrant.
That's right. Now, at the same time, I would point out that Aquinas has been declared by the church to be the common doctor or the universal doctor, like sort of a reference point that is a really important one that can be for the whole church. And I think that's important. And, I'm the director of the Thomistic Institute. That's what we're devoting all of our work and energy to, is to making Aquinas accessible to people and to helping them encounter the riches of the Catholic intellectual tradition. And Aquinas is one of the greatest figures that makes that tradition accessible to us. But why is Aquinas so important? Well, in the history of the church, go back 400 years, 500 years, Aquinas has always been kind of a guiding star, like a North Star for Catholic doctrine. And in a certain way, I would say providing kind of a structure for Catholic thought. So Aquinas, because he's a common reference point, it's kind of like a skeleton, like a backbone. It doesn't have all the flesh on it necessarily, so you need more stuff than just Aquinas. But if you have Aquinas, it kind of helps all the parts fit together. In the 20th century, there was a very intentional move away from Aquinas to say, hey, we got to do something new. And so
look how that played.
Yeah, we tried that. And I'm not sure that we found another skeletal structure. In fact, I think what we ended up with was something that didn't, individual parts are still excellent, but it's harder to see how it all fits together. And I think that's produced kind of a crisis in Catholic education, crisis in catechesis and sacramental formation, a crisis in preaching, because you kind of need to be able to understand the whole and how it all fits together so that you can present it to people in a way that they can understand and that they kind of see the big picture. While still being able to zoom in on individual things. So I think that's part of the mission of the Thomistic Institute, is to try and say, hey guys, Aquinas is really important. How's it working out without him structuring the way we think? Catholic theology, Catholic dogma, the church's magisterium, all the way down to your first grade, or your first communion class, like you need some structure there. And Aquinas gives us the principles that let us do that.
I like to think of the Dominicans as sort of the revenge of the nerds, and I mean that very affectionately, because it seemed like after the new atheism phase that seems to have completely died out at this point, you've got excellent people coming to our defense, like Dr. William Lane Craig and others. But then y'all, maybe with less of the, I don't know, fame and clout as Craig, kind of started invading these universities and just taught Thomistic truths that it seems like a lot of people were and are resonating with. So what is the response on these campuses? Because you're not there to like make Christianity look cool. You're there to teach metaphysical truths and moral truths. What's the response been all over the world?
The response has been amazing. I mean, how did these campus chapters? I mean, just to describe briefly what we do, we have student clubs effectively on university campuses, and we just celebrated our 100th chapter. So we just had the formation and the first event for our 100th chapter. So that's a huge milestone for us.
Fantastic.
We only started 8 years ago. So to get from 0 to 100 in 8 years, well, that took a lot of work. But it's really the work of all these students. So it's a club of students who form a group. They apply for recognition from their university, and then they reach out to us, and we help them bring Catholic speakers to their campus and put on Catholic events, and then have reading groups and social events, and we try to bring them to the Dominican House of Studies for retreats, and we have summer conferences for them. And we were very pleased that last year at our summer conference we had the Matt Fradd from Pints with Aquinas as one of our keynote speakers. That was a huge privilege. So, I mean, I know that you've seen some of these students and met them, but the secret sauce to all of this are the students. And it's the fact that, we wanted this to not be pre-programmed from like the Dominican House of Studies in Washington, D.C., but to say to the students, like, you are the Thomistic Institute, you are in charge of your chapter. What interests you? What do you think the students at your campus would like to hear about? What are your questions? And then, we try to find speakers who can answer those questions.
You've got 100 chapters. How many speaking engagements do these chapters get a month? Is it one a month? Or
we would like it to be one a month. Some of our most active chapters would have, say, 8 lectures in an academic year, which is roughly one a month. And then we have seminars on top of that.
That's a lot of speakers.
Not all of our chapters have that many events, so we're trying to get them all up to that level. But I mean, this year, we're going to be around 500 lectures this year. So
who's organizing these speaking engagements? The groups on campus?
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So basically, this is an army of student volunteers who is doing this work.
And do you have a list of pre-approved speakers that they can choose from? Is that the
basically
idea?
we have speakers that we have, that we know, and we know that they're, solid Catholic, solid Catholic or Christian. We have a few Protestant speakers on the list. So it's not a, we have chapters that are run at non-Catholic schools, Protestant schools. We have chapter presidents who are not Catholic. Some are Protestant, some are Orthodox. We have some who are not even Christian who are involved in the clubs. So you don't have to be Catholic to be involved. You just have to like the ideas and want to hear about them. And so
be sure to download Truthly. Truthly is like ChatGPT went to OCIA, got baptized, and now is on a mission to evangelize the world. Check it out, truthly.ai.
It's very different from, say, a campus ministry, because a campus ministry is like trying to care for the souls of the Catholic students primarily, and hopefully also bring in, and expose non-Catholics to the riches of the faith. But what we're trying to do is reach out to the university on the intellectual level and help people at the university see that, like, these ideas are very serious ideas that any educated person should know something about. And wouldn't you like to know something about them? So, we're trying to supplement the life of the university with this tradition, which typically is not well represented on, the contemporary secular campus.
What is a campus that you're surprised the Thomistic Institute has grown so much?
Well, I mean, the great story here would be Regent University.
Okay.
Regent is in Virginia Beach. It was founded by Pat Robertson. It's a evangelical,
I don't know.
college,
Okay.
and or university, and the vast majority of students there are not Catholic, but they have been incredibly interested. There's a group of Catholic and Protestant students together who formed a Thomistic Institute chapter. They're getting like 170 people at each lecture, if you can believe that. They decided to publish a journal. It's like unbelievably active and engaged. And then we've got a group, these are groups of students, some Protestant, some Catholic, coming to the Dominican House of Studies on retreat. And at a retreat that we run, it includes we pray Vespers, that's praying the Psalms, but we go to Mass and we do Eucharistic adoration. And all these students are doing that together. And that is amazing. So I never imagined that would happen, but it's happening.
Yeah, when you don't dumb the faith down intellectually or liturgically, that's when people start coming.
That's right. And I think people are looking for something that has substance.
Yeah.
They're also looking for something that is authentic. I think that's a big, big warning sign to young people if they think that you're not real.
Yeah.
And so we don't try to be too fancy, but we do try to be who we are.
Yeah. Have you had any negative experiences on campuses? Have any of these lecturers gone on to say things that would go against secular dogma, if you want to put it that way, and they've received any pushback?
We've been pretty fortunate about that. We've had, there have been a few cases, yeah. But for the most part, we have not had that problem. And I think the reason is we have tried to keep the focus. We say to the student leaders, for example, we don't do politics. We don't do journalism. We don't invite politicians. We don't have journalists come and speak. The popular kind of, more rabble-rouser type events, which, it's nothing against them. It's just not what we do.
I love it.
And so we want to be a reputable partner intellectually, but we don't want to flinch from the truths of the faith. So we want to be straightforward about that. I mean, if I walk onto a college campus, even a very secular one, in my habit, people know where you stand. There's no one's deceived about what you believe. But you don't always have to lead with the most difficult things.
Right.
So, for example, we generally don't lead with stuff dealing with human sexuality or the Sixth Commandment. It's not because we don't believe in that stuff. We absolutely do. I mean, it's actually extremely important. It's just that if you lead with that on a college campus, you're poking the most neuralgic spot, the most sensitive spot. And you can get further if you start by talking about, what we say is who on campus is talking about God? Why don't we talk about God? Who on campus is talking about happiness or faith or virtue? Or is the Bible really true? Or can you reconcile scripture and science? These are really important questions. They're super interesting questions. People are really interested in them. And if you get off on a political theme or something that is the hottest debate of the day on campus, you may not ever get to the stuff that you really want to talk about.
That's good advice for one-on-one evangelization as well, right? Prudence, that virtue which helps us act in accord with right reason, should help us as we evangelize our mother-in-law or our brother who might be away from the church. And you can be kind of morally certain that if I bring this particular topic up right now, it'll just make her or him angry. And okay, what's the good in that? You get to feel like you said the truth even though they didn't want to hear it. Yeah, but the goal is to help them hear it. And so you're kind of getting in the way.
That's right. This is good pastoral sense, having good pastoral sense. You want to say the truth and you don't want to back off. You don't want to be afraid of saying the truth or pretend like you don't believe it. That would not be truthful, and it wouldn't really be helping the person you're talking to. But you don't have to start with the most difficult point.
Yeah.
And you have to build a rapport and a kind of a relationship of intellectual communion and even trust. You know, so if you become a responsible partner in an argument or a dialogue, then you can eventually get to the more difficult things. I mean, the goal is not to never get there. It's just you don't necessarily start there.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Thanks very much for watching that clip. You can click the link below if you want to watch the full interview, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.